Okay, so when you open Rhino for the first time, this is basically what you're going to see. So you have a series of toolbars at the top, and you have a bunch of different tasks and different tools you can use within Rhino. They generally look the same. They may differ slightly if you're on a Mac computer versus Windows or other computers, but it's all generally the same. Toolbars might differ because I have a series of plugins and things like that, but basic interface, when you open it up, you'll have these four different boxes. These boxes are your viewports for your model. So this top view is top looking straight down on the model perspective, 3D views of the model, front and right respectively. You can access these views by double clicking on them. So if I double click on the perspective, it will take me to the perspective view. And I would highly suggest using a mouse when using Rhino and not just using the touchpad, because it's much easier to navigate within Rhino using a mouse. For example, if I scroll in and out with the mouse, and if you hold the right mouse button, you can orbit around, and if you hold shift and then right, you can pan around your object. So here's a little overview of how to navigate. Different 3D modeling softwares have different ways of how they orbit, how you navigate, and it is a little tricky jumping from different program to program. But so that's a real quick overview. So let's go into setting up some units for our object. Specifically, we're going to be creating a 3D printable vase. So you can use in either inches or millimeters, depending on where you are or what you're most comfortable working with. So I'm just going to type in units into the command bar at the top here. And Rhino is great with the command bars that if you have a command that you're thinking of that you want it to do, it's more than likely within the command bar. So I just want to type in my units. So I'll just type in units. Hit enter. And then it'll bring up this document properties here. And right now the current units and tolerances are set at model units feet. Let's change that for this example to inches. And let's keep the absolute tolerance. We'll keep that where it is for now. Relative tolerance, we'll keep that where it is. Decimal, fractional, feet and inches. You can either keep that or you can change that. I typically work in feet and inches, and I change the precision to most precise, or depending on what scale of an object you're looking to make. For example, 3D printing, it's relatively small scale, so we'll keep the display precision at the tiniest scale. Just press OK and it should update automatically, and it did, and we can orbit around and we'll jump right into the design phase. So let's go to the next video and I'll show you how to start creating these curves. Okay, so now that we have our unit set and we have our preferences already, let's start by drawing a circle just as a reference for our object, so we know how large this face is going to be. 3D printing is relatively small scale, and if we are working with a desktop 3D printer, we try to want to keep sizes relatively around like below 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches. So if we're going to create a vase, let's start with our circle. Let's have the diameter, let's go with 3 inches. Type in 3 inches into the command line. That's there. So now we're just going to be using this as a reference. So we're not going to snap to this circle, we're just going to be using it as a way for our control points to flow along this curve, just as we click along them. So I can switch to the top view to have it a little easier to draw our curves. And let's put them on a different layer as well, so that when we turn these off, we can have them on different layers. So we'll switch to layer 1. And instead of using the circle command, I'm going to be using the control point curve. And this control point curve is great because you have a series of control points that you just click around our object, and it creates a curve that flows around between each point, and is a little bit different than the polyline. The polyline will just have straight connected points. The control point creates the best curve between each point. So we'll start our curve. It doesn't really matter where we start, but so we can just click our different points along following this reference line, but again we have this O snap turned off so that we are not snapping to the circle. We want to create these organic shapes, so we're just using it as a reference. And we are clicking along the curve, and these control points are what is creating our curve. And these control points are editable if you go to right here. It has the points on, points off. If you just left click with your mouse, you can turn these on, and you can just click that, and you can use a gumball to move them. And you see it's all parametric, so if you move one point, the other point updates. But let's just Control Z that for now. And you can either use like commands like move. Let's move that in there. You can move that there. But the gumball tool comes in really handy. So there we have our first curve with all the control points anchoring our curves. And let's just turn the points off for now. And then, so to create this organic vase, we want to have a series of these curves stacked upon one another. And for right now, if we switch to the perspective view, you see that we are drawing all on the same plane. This is our work plane that we're working with. That's fine for now. We'll go back to the top view, and I'll put the next curve on a different layer in a different color just so you can see easier what we're doing here. So if I do the same process again, but then again making sure we have O snap ortho off, I can just click along different points here, and again it doesn't really matter where we're placing. You can have a set of rules that you're working with. I've done that for different projects, like we created a phone case that had a series of these undulating curves that we want to have strictly within parameters. But for right now, for this example, I'm just doing some random control points to create the most organic shape. So we have our purple, and you'll see that it's on the same work plane as the red curve that we just drew. That's fine. And let's go to a blue one. Let's go back to the control point. Let's make this one a little bit crazier. Let's go in and out much more. But you'll see it still stays relatively within our path because of that reference line that I'm using. So that's pretty good like that. And it's on the same work plane. Let's go with the green. And the number of curves that you want to draw totally depends up to you, how many you want to draw. But we'll just keep clicking along here. Keep clicking away, clicking away, clicking away. And then we got another shape. And let's do one more. Let's go to layer 5. And we'll just click along here. This one's a little bit hard to see. I can change the color later. But I am clicking along. Again, using that circle as our reference. Just so we have something to align to. So I might change that color now because it's hard to see. Change it to orange. Oop. Past it. Let's Control Z so we can snap to that. So if we go to the perspective, double clicking again, and then right click to orbit around. So to create this loft, we want to have these on different levels. So we have the red curve here is our first layer, purple is our second, blue is our third, so on. But we want to have these on different levels. So let's click our purple line. And let's use the gumball here. It is a way to manipulate depending on the X, Y, or Z coordinates. You can move left or right, up or down, doesn't really matter. But let's Control Z. So if I click on purple, you can click on the arrow and you can type in whatever units you want to use. So if we're creating a vase, let's keep it still relatively small scale. We can manipulate the scale later. But I'll just go half an inch, so 0.5 inches. Let's move it up. And then let's go with the blue as our next one. Let's click blue. This one, let's go with 1 inch. Let's go with the green as our next one. 1.5 inches. And then orange is our last one. Let's go with 2 inches. So now you see if we orbit around, we have these curves on different levels, and they're all at different heights. And if we're keeping this red one here as our base, we can turn off this default layer that had our reference circle. We don't really need that anymore. It was just for initially drawing these curves. But if we take these curves, we can now loft them, and I'll be showing the loft command in our next series. So now that we have our curves ready to be lofted, let's type loft into the command bar. And it's important with the loft command to select your curves in order from top to bottom, bottom to top, whichever way you want your loft line to follow. So I'll start from the bottom with the red, and go up to purple, blue, green, and then orange. And let's press enter. And then you'll see that you get this this line here showing which direction the loft will follow, and we're going to see these arrows are which way they're pointing. Looks about right for this complex curvature. Let's press enter. And it'll give you a preview. So this will give you a preview based on the different styles. This is with the normal. You can see if you change these parameters, it can be loose. You can click preview, and it loosely follows those curves. You can do tight if you really want to be strict and follow each of these curves. And you can do different variables in this preview option. Let's stay with the normal for now. Let's go with preview. Looks pretty good. And right now that looks pretty good. That's going to be an open surface here. You can tell by the object type. And for this to be 3D printable, we'll want this to be a closed surface, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. But before doing so, let's stretch this a little bit to make this look more like a vase. So right now it looks a little squat. But I can stretch this to any amount really. I'm not going to be too precise for this vase because this is just going to be a custom object. But in this control bar here, you can grab these rectangles and scale vertically, horizontally. So I can just grab this blue bar and stretch. And that looks pretty good for a vase. And as you can see, this is still an open surface here. To make this open surface 3D printable, we'll want to make this into a closed surface, meaning that'll be watertight. So if I select the surface and then go up to the command bars up top in the solid tab, you can go to offset. Then you can see these white lines here will be which direction you're offsetting your object to. So you can just click on the object to flip your direction. Go on outside, but in our case, we're gonna go inside. This distance here, you're gonna change the parameters depending on how it looks. Okay, so now that we have our closed poly surface, we want to create a base for our organic vase. So we see here it's a closed poly surface. But firstly, we want to fix a little bit of a problem that was a result of this solid offset. So we see it here. We have some points here from the offset and a point here that kind of got pinched and pushed down. So if you go to front view, you can kind of see that it's not completely straight across the bottom. We want this to be completely flat for 3D printing and also for making a clean file. So let's just go to Boolean difference. Well, we're going to create a box to Boolean difference from. Just create a box, and I'm just going to take this and then move it down. Let's go to the front view so we have a better view of it. So there's the little parts that we want to fix. So let's just move that up a tiny little bit. Might also fix our problem of having it, the distance here being a little bit too large for our 3D printer. So if our max is 6 inches, we're going to be under that obviously so we can print right. We have that here, and now let's just Boolean difference this object, but first we want to copy this over so we don't lose our progress. Let's copy that over, and then if we take this Boolean difference, delete input, yes, because we don't necessarily need this box anymore. Click enter, and it should be flat right on the bottom there. So now if we go to the front view, see that, yep, that there's flat. And now all we have to do to create our base is, now we can select the solid tab and then extrude planar curve straight. Now we want to select this inner curve here, and then we want to move it up, and it looks like it's still a little bit of a problem there, so we can fix that by doing a different method with the base. We'll go back to our box here, and then bring this straight out and then down. Come straight out, and then for height we want to do, since we have 1/8 for our offset, let's keep it at 1/8. And then this one we can again just move right here, and then move from a point to a point along the bottom. And then we just want to center it. So it's kind of like a cookie cutter cutting the base. And then from there we want to Boolean difference this box. So Boolean difference, delete input, no. This is our cookie cutter, we'll call it. Hit enter, and it should be, if we have this piece, let's just hide it for now to make sure it worked. Yeah, it looks like we have a closed box in the bottom, that there is a closed poly surface. Here's a closed poly surface, two closed poly surfaces, which is good. Now let's take this piece, copy it over so we don't lose the two. Bring it over, and now we can Boolean union these two pieces together, hopefully. And it looks like we have a closed poly surface, and we have these two pieces joined together. So now you have your closed vase. And you can edit this object even further if you want. But for now, we can either export it as a 3D print file right now, or on the next part I can show you some tapering and other ways to spruce up this print. So to export as an STL file, you want to select this closed poly surface, click on File, Export Selected, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop for right now. But we're going to go to Save as Type. Going to go to STL, Stereolithography. That's basically what's going to be slicing all of these. And we'll call it Organic Vase. Organic Vase Tutorial Print. And we'll click Save. And the maximum distance, this is fine at 0.0. Press OK. Then you want to keep it selected as binary. And then press OK. And it looks like it should be ready to 3D print. And I'll be going into Simplify to show you how to slice this. Now we're switching to Simplify 3D. It is a slicing software, and I use Simplify for my FlashForge Creator Pro. So this is just a basic way to show you how to slice your object and have a successful 3D print. So let's go to File, Import Models, and then it's on our desktop. So, and then we're just going to look under the 3D models. Let's see where I saved it. Organic Vase. Open it, and looks like it's small, so automatically scale to millimeter format. Yes. So right now it is pretty large, but we can scale that down so it'll be printable. This box here is our workable volume for, in this case, it's my FlashForge Creator Pro. But depending on your printer, it's going to be a different size and shape. So then we're just going to go to scale. Just going to scale our model. Just going to scale this down into a workable format. And here we have a workable size. And it's a little different orbiting in this one. Same as zooming in and out, but this time it's a left click just to zoom in and out, or to orbit around. And there you have it. And now we can set our processes. So we can edit our processes, or we can add. So let's go to add. So right now I have a FlashForge Creator Pro that's set up for me. Left extruder tool head is fine, or we can switch to the right. The right is usually the primary one for the Creator Pro, or at least how I use mine. So up here we have, you can set what material you're using: PLA, ABS, PVA, nylon. I also have different types of filament that I've used, like wood filament, other exotic filament like that. Let's keep it at PLA. And print quality, if we want it quicker, medium, or high quality, just keep it at medium for now. Infill percentage is going to form these little hexagonal shapes or these rectilinear shapes depending on how you have it set up, but it's just going to be the infill, so it's not necessarily going to be solid plastic on the inside, but it is more of just the inside percentage. So it actually 20% is probably going to be fine for us just now because the majority of it is just a shell. And here we have our nozzle diameter. We can keep all of that. So yeah, let's go with OK. You can also set up layer heights. So I have it primarily set at 0.2 millimeters. It's going to have a pretty clean print, what I expect it to be. And we'll press OK. So now we have that loaded in, and now we can prepare to print. And now it's going to be slicing it here on the bottom. It's going to show a preview of what the model is going to look like when it is printed. And Simplified 3D is great because it actually shows the tool paths. So we just click like the end line here. If you follow that, it's going to show the 3D printing process. So this is it working backwards. But first it's going to start with your base layer that we drew in and Boolean union together. And then I'll zoom in closer so you can see a little bit. But this is basically the process that it's going to show. See, so that this is the tool head moving back and forth, creating your organic form, going right up to the top. And yeah, there you have it. So now we can either begin printing by connecting our USB directly to our printer, or what I typically do is save the tool paths to an SD card, so that way you can 3D print that way. Hope you enjoy.